Bruins had their first preseason opener.
They did.
The other night against Columbus.
They did.
We saw mainly a lot of the prospects, a lot of the guys you won't probably see until middle of camp, later on in camp, as they start to whittle down the roster a bit, and a lot of guys are playing in the World Cup. But it was pretty nice to see some of those prospects. Some of those guys played really well.
They didn't look bad. They did not look bad, and I was very pleased with what I saw.
Yeah.
I thought Zane McIntyre played pretty well in net.
He was pretty solid.
I feel like Bruce Cassidy coached the team very well. I liked what I saw from Brandon Carlo.
Yep.
You know, there was a lot of stuff that I saw that night that I was like, okay. And these are just the rookies. This isn't even adding in the veterans.
Right. I mean, Jimmy Hayes played, and actually Jimmy Hayes had a goal in that game against Columbus.
Well, he did say he wanted to step up because he's been absolutely.
Well, he's got to. I mean, you're talking, and I wanted to mention Jimmy Hayes. You know, you're talking about a guy that's most likely going to be a part of the forward core. He's not on a two-way deal.
Right.
So
he needs to step up.
I mean, there was a lot riding on this guy coming to Boston last year. I mean, he's not going to score you 20, 25 goals. But he needs to be, like you said, step up and be consistent.
Yes.
You can't have these games where you're falling off for about 10 games in a row.
Yep.
And you don't even notice that he's out on the ice. You can't be having that.
Yeah.
You can't be having that. Especially when you're in a rebuilding, pretty much a rebuilding year, but have a chance to possibly make the playoffs. Because I feel like this team is good enough to crack that final wild card spot, just to let us taste, just a lick of the playoffs.
Another youngster that they said really stuck out quite a bit was this young kid, Denton Heinen. He stuck out quite a bit in that game as well. He had a goal too. I believe he scored to tie it up, something like that. Young kid. He was drafted by the Bruins, I think, a couple of years ago, last year in the 4th round. He was playing at the University of Denver the last 2 seasons. He played some games in Providence last year. I mean, who knows, Mike? Maybe one of these young kids who we've never, not really one of these big prospects like Carlo or DeBrusque, but maybe one of these kids that you haven't heard a lot about that may be able to crack the team, like a Denton Heinen.
You know what I like that the Bruins have been doing is when talk came out about Jacob Trouba.
Yep.
And
who's still not signed, by the way.
I don't think they're going to sign him.
Ristolainen's still not signed.
I feel like they'd have to give up too much.
Yeah.
But from one of the Bruins executives, he came out and said, we are done taking our talent and sprinkling it around the league.
Yep.
Which also means they don't want to take their young prospects and give them, to everybody else, when you could actually develop these guys. Because I feel like the prospects they have right now, down in Providence, down in the juniors,
close, Mike.
That's going to be your future. Stop spreading them around. And I feel like a light bulb finally went on, and they've been.
And taking a guy like we started talking about, Brandon Carlo.
He played down in the WHL last year. 4 goals, 23 assists, 27 points, 52 games, 94 penalty minutes, +8.
What else could you ask for from a defenseman?
Right. He's got size. He can play very well on the back end. He played some games in Providence towards the end of the season. We saw him in that one playoff game he played for Providence.
And he looked pretty good.
I thought he looked pretty good. I thought his skating game wasn't quite catching up to the pace of the league.
It was also an elimination game.
It was, which is a big spot. That's a big spot to be put in for such a young guy. But I felt like his skating hadn't quite caught up. Because, I mean, playing at the AHL level is pretty close to pro. You're playing against guys who have played in the pros for a long time.
Right.
But watching him against Columbus the other night, I thought Carlo looked really good. Really good in the corners, getting pucks up ice.
They've been saying that he could be the one that cracks one of the roster spots for defense. And, you know what? I would like to see it.
Right, because if you take a look at the defense right now, I mean, this is roster right now. This is who they have. They're obviously not going after. They're most likely not getting Trouba. They're not getting Ristolainen. None of those guys. So if you look at it purely of who they have, you know it's going to be Chara, Kevin Miller, Krug, McQuaid. Which I don't care for the McQuaid pairing with Krug. but John Michael Lyles and Colin Miller, those most likely are your starting defensemen. But do one of these guys, young guys, crack the lineup, like Brandon Carlo,
This would be good.
Jakob Zaboral?
This will be good for Carlo because if Kevin Miller doesn't live up to his contract, because the Bruins are so high on him for some reason, why?
$2.5 million for the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, if he doesn't live up to his contract, Brandon Carlo can be the one that takes one of the spots. You can move McQuaid up with Chara possibly.
Yep.
Move Miller to Krug and put Carlo at Lyles.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that could be a pairing that we see. I hope that happens. I'd like to see Carlo play more than, Kevin Miller.
I know. Or McQuaid.
Well, McQuaid looked really good in the preseason game, too. He actually played pretty solid.
I was thinking about the defense a lot the other day, actually. I was really thinking about it. When you really look at this defense, you have to think that there are still some holes here defensively. So there's a lot of questions here. Kevin Miller and McQuaid's injury history.
Yep.
I don't mind Kevin Miller. It's just the numbers on the contract that bug me.
Mm-hmm.
But that aside, Kevin Miller is a solid defenseman. He's a gritty guy. He's a dirt guy. He's kind of like the Kevin Youkilis of the Red Sox a few years ago.
Yes.
He plays hard, but the cost of that is getting injured, which we saw a lot last year. So you look at the holes like Chara, Miller, and McQuaid. So you take them out, you got Krug and hopefully Lyles. I do like John Michael Lyles. I think he played great coming into Boston last year. He said he's in great shape this season.
Good.
Colin Miller, they're very high on Colin Miller. They're thinking he's a top 6 guy. So
You could see it. You could see it watching him play.
yeah.
So I think we're all high on Colin Miller. He should have gotten the contract that Kevin Miller got. Actually, no, not for a rookie coming up like that.
Not for that long. I mean, he hasn't had that much NHL time yet. Kevin Miller has definitely put the time in.
Yeah, but I still would have only given Miller like maybe 1.5 mil.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
I mean,
2 years.
I'm not saying he definitely didn't deserve a bump.
He's obviously playing at the NHL level. He's playing consistent.
Not well enough.
He's playing every season.
He's making bad mistakes.
Right, but you saw some mistakes, but he's also injury prone. We've seen that. Same thing with McQuaid. So Chara and McQuaid, you get guys that aren't really great skaters defensively. Mm-hmm. So now it makes you think, God, do we actually have holes defensively? Even though you may think, oh, Chara, yeah, great, we're good. But he's not like he was.
After watching the World Cup, seeing him
Play for Europe.
oh my God.
What? No, I don't feel good with Chara.
Yeah.
He got the puck taken off his stick, and he couldn't. He turned around so slow. He kind of had that look of like, I thunk, and they just Canada came down. I forget who stole the puck off him, but he passed it over to Stamkos, and he scored for the second goal of the game. I mean, Chara can't keep up with these guys anymore at all.
Right. I mean, to be able to see Krug and Michael Lyles playing together, Colin Miller and Brandon Carlo, so if Carlo plays well enough, does that push Colin Miller out of the lineup? Does that even maybe push McQuaid out of the lineup? If these guys compete well enough to make a spot.